Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Rowsome. I am currently the inclusive content producer for Ability Co-op in Trinity College Dublin. I'm going into my second year studying physics, and I am here today to tell you my story with anxiety. It does stem from another disability. I have what's called autism spectrum disorder, or simply just autism. And my generalized anxiety disorder very much comes from um, my autism. The two effectively go hand in hand. Certainly from a social perspective, because social anxiety, I think, would be my biggest struggle, definitely. Um, Growing up, communication was extremely hard. I only spoke through what's called echolalia. So I picked up what I heard in a conversation or possibly from a movie or a TV show, and I would literally just recite it back, regardless of whether it made any sense in the conversation or not. So you can imagine, as a child, communication was extremely difficult, and from there, social anxiety, I think, became a big problem for me. I suppose to an extent it is now still, but it would be as a result of my autism. Um, Definitely. But my anxiety would stem from other, suppose, problems as well. I mean, in terms of maybe just little things like exams and stuff, getting stuff in time. I mean, I have normal worries that a student might that may be amplified somewhat as a result of my generalized anxiety disorder or as a result of my autism, if you like. But yeah, so from my autism, I would say. As a person who has autism and as a person who has anxiety, I don't particularly like change, or I'd say I don't particularly deal well with change. Certainly at first, and college was a huge change for me. New place, new people, new smells, new sounds, all the stuff that when you say it out loud, you're like, okay, whatever. But bring it all together in one, it can be very overwhelming. Certainly for the first while, it was extremely overwhelming trying to get used to everything and just trying to get used to how college works in general, because it's a new way of living as well as a new way of learning, etc. I think the first semester for me was particularly difficult, but that there were a number of factors uh, at that point. I was actually gutted leaving secondary. I know not everybody can say the same. I know a lot of people would have been delighted to get out of that place, but I just grew a very strong connection with my peers there. So leaving secondary was very hard. I had suffered a very serious bereavement during the summer as well. So there were a number of factors going in that certainly didn't help matters. So my anxiety did change a lot going into college, and it was very hard to manage um, at various points. Certainly throughout the first semester, maybe less so the second. Um, but yeah, no, I did get into a groove though then, and I do enjoy college now genuinely. And now I suppose I have the normal anxieties that maybe comes with being a student in college. Deadlines and exams and all that stuff. So good fun in any case. I suppose it would have an impact on me both mentally and physically. I mean, certainly in the first semester it was extremely tiring because my anxiety was so heightened. I mean, and again, all the factors that come with college life, from travel, because I wasn't used to that idea. I lived very near to my secondary school, so the idea of having to travel to a place was new to me. Certainly from an educational perspective. Um, Certainly the workload, not even the amount of work you get, but certainly the level of concentration that you have to apply to it over a long period of time can be very tiring, and that's, I suppose, that can be like a new thing, or generally is a new thing for someone starting college. Um, I suppose it impacted me in both those ways. Um, Very much so. As I say, definitely during the first semester, because I literally hit the ground running. In my instance, no. The reason being is because I was used to reaching out for help when I was in secondary. I would have had very close connections with the special needs assistants that would have been in secondary, and they were a great help to me then. Anytime I needed a venue, a separate venue for my junior cert or leaving cert exams, I'd have no problem applying for those. So it was applying to the disability services and seeking their help wasn't a new thing to me. I wasn't overly embarrassed because I had no one with whom I could really uh, be embarrassed, I suppose. I mean, I made friends quickly, and I will admit that. But it was never really a source of embarrassment in my case. And I had actually met some of the people from the disability services before I entered the college. Um, Declan Trainer I had met beforehand, Alison Doyle I had met beforehand through these workshops that they had conducted the previous year. So no, really wasn't a problem. I actually had close ties really with the disability services before I even stepped into the college. I know that won't be the case for all students, but in my case, it just sort of worked out, and it was never really a problem. So it was okay. The coping mechanisms I would have used throughout my own life have either changed over time or I've sort of fine tuned them over time. Um, so I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is music. I mean, I'll always bring a set of headphones with me, and if I'm in a crowded place or a noisy place, I'll just stick them in, and usually alleviate some of the anxiety I might be feeling. Certainly from a social perspective or a noise perspective, because sounds would definitely be one of my sensitivities as regards my anxiety, which is another reason why for a long time I would have carried earplugs around me when my anxiety would have been a lot worse. I would actually literally, rather than headphones, I would bring actual earplugs with me, which did help. I don't use them now anymore. I don't really have a need to, but as a teenager, I would have because I would have been extremely anxious as regards noise. So that was one of the coping mechanisms. I suppose I find a lot of my hobbies help me to alleviate a lot of my anxiety. I mentioned music before. I like reading and writing. I do that a lot. Um, so usually during the day before I go to bed, I might read a book or something like that, and or if I'm in a stressful situation, I might be thinking about maybe chess is another one of my hobbies as well. I play a lot of chess, so I might be thinking about a game I played a couple of days ago, or just things that I'm very interested in and just sort of keep me calm, just sort of rolling around in my mind. That's a big help. Um, Very recently, I took up a martial art called Hapkido, and there's a lot of meditation involved in Hapkido. And the meditation techniques I would use a good bit now, which I'm forever grateful for because in terms of just breathing and relaxing the mind and everything. I mean, I sort of misjudged it for a long time. I really came to understand the sheer power of breathing and slowing down the mind when I practiced the meditation techniques through Aikido. Um, but um, but yeah, over time I've had to find these and fine tune these. Well, I suppose within college life, there are certain sources of anxiety that are probably going to be inevitable. From the perspective, there may be a certain situation where I don't know, the venue has changed or the time has changed, and you're literally scrambling for where to go, and it can be very disconcerting. But certainly from a college perspective, I would say there's no situation that you can't deal with. There's always a solution to a problem, and there's certainly places to go and ask for help. Um, I mean, if you're stuck in a particular situation, chances are the rest of the people in your course are in the exact same situation, or certainly a good few of them. The disability services, I should say, have been an enormous help, certainly for me throughout the year. So I would definitely say, again, echoing back to, I suppose, the fourth question, don't be afraid to reach out for help into the disability services, etc. I suppose in general, obviously anxiety isn't a nice thing to have, certainly sometimes. If you're going through, say, maybe a bout of anxiety or are having an anxiety attack, it's not a pleasant experience. But that doesn't mean, that it can't be dealt with. Don't be afraid to try new coping mechanisms and see just where what can be of help to you, because it'll be different for different people. One coping mechanism won't be the be all and end all of coping mechanisms. It will depend on yourself as well, and just discovering who you are as a person through your interests, through your friends, that kind of stuff. That sounds maybe a bit sort of cliche or strange when you say it out loud, but it is true, genuinely. Um, it is. I've certainly found myself as a person that succeeded in managing my anxiety a lot better through my friendships and through the hobbies that I'm very interested in. So there we go. And the 6 questions I've answered there. I hope my answers to those questions have given you a better idea of my story, of what it's like to live with anxiety. Hopefully, maybe a few tips you can take away yourself if you yourself are struggling from anxiety, trying to manage your own anxiety. And as I said before, don't think you're just um, that there's no way out of a particular situation. There's always a solution, and there's always anxiety can be a difficult condition to manage sometimes if you're suffering a bout of anxiety, but that doesn't mean there aren't supports. It doesn't mean there aren't people there who care about you and want to help you. We are there. uh, the disability services are there. The ability co-op is there. So that's my story. I hope you're all doing well during these pressing times. Take care of yourself, and we might see each other real soon.